Forget everything you think you know about ancient history, because much of what you've read in textbook barely scratches the surface. Today we don't just visit a museum, we open a message buried in stone, etched in clay, hidden in manuscripts the world still can't translate. We re-about to expose the shocking truths and hidden narratives concealed within the very artifacts that have puzzled archaeologists for centuries. These aren't just museum pieces, they're time capsules, waiting to spill their secrets. What if the greatest stories ever told aren't in books at all? What if they're buried in the fibers of ancient scrolls, tucked into forgotten temples, or chiseled into tablets still whispering after thousands of years? This is the Forgotten File, and tonight we follow the trail of the whispers of time. It starts with silence, the kind of silence that echoes not in our ears, but in time itself. In rooms where ancient texts hang behind glass, in display cases where strange objects sit under flickering lights, you've seen them before. A clay disc spiraled with symbols no one understands. A bronze machine pulled from the seafloor, gears frozen mid-motion. A stone bowl with writing that shouldn't exist at least, not there and not then. But what if those objects aren't just historical leftovers? What if they're whispers, clues, warnings, stories written in forms we've forgotten how to read? Here on the Forgotten File, our goal isn't just to look at these artifacts, it's to listen. Mystery in metal and stone? Let's start with two names you might have heard in passing but never fully explored. The Antikythera mechanism, the Voynich manuscript, both are tangible proof that history doesn't always obey the rules. One was built of cogs and bronze, the other, ink and parchment, but each one humbles us. The Antikythera mechanism was discovered in 1901. Inside a sunken Roman shipwreck off the coast of Greece, for decades, no one knew what to make of it, just a corroded lump of bronze. But under X-rays and 3D rendering, it came alive. Gears, refined calculation. A 2,000-year-old analog computer. Its creator mapped the movement of celestial bodies, calculated eclipses, maybe even predicted Olympic Games. Who built it? How did they know what they knew? And perhaps most dangerous of all, what inventions have we forgotten? Then there's the Voynich manuscript. Over 200 pages of hand-drawn botanical diagrams, planetary charts, and handwritten glyphs, no scholar has successfully decoded. Found in the early 20th century, it's resisted every attempt at translation. Computer models, linguistic AI, cryptographic algorithms, nothing. Whether it's the work of a lost culture, a hoax, or something else altogether, it tells us this. There is more to the past than we think. Now, time is not the only thing we've been losing. Introducing the central premise across the next 4 chapters, we'll dive deep into mysteries contained in objects that have survived the centuries. But the version of these artifacts you've seen in museums, that's the safe version, the boring version, the one with a polite placard. We're pulling back the curtain. You'll see artifacts that don't belong in the time they came from. Technology our ancestors shouldn't have had, symbols we still can't translate, even in 2025, and discoveries that were laughed out of textbooks till science said, wait, this might be real. This isn't about pseudoscience, it's about being honest with mystery. Because mystery isn't a weakness in history, it's strength. It's what keeps thousands of researchers digging into desert sands, crawling through jungle temples, scanning stone walls for symbols written before there were alphabets. What lies ahead? This investigation is split into 5 acts layered with artifacts, discoveries, debates, and the human stories they conceal. In Part 2, we'll look at the so-called out-of-place artifacts, the Bronze Age battery, Mesopotamian bowl with South American writing, strange things that rewrite our historical timeline if we let them. In Part 3, we'll turn to lost knowledge and forgotten breakthroughs. Did ancient civilizations understand astronomy, physics, and mapping at levels we've only just rediscovered? Part 4 reveals the journey of discovery, how chance finds and flawed ethics shaped history. How a shepherd stumbled upon scrolls that changed biblical history, and how many ancient treasures were fake or stolen. Finally, in Part 5, we look at meaning, stories, the human fingerprints on all these objects. Not just who made them, but why. When we look at something thousands of years old, we're not just seeing history, we're seeing ourselves. Different skin, different language. Same mind, same fear, same curiosity. Why this matters in 2025, it's easy to think that everything important has already been found, that history is static, neat, boxed up in museums. But in the last 10 years alone, LEADER uncovered entire lost cities beneath the Guatemalan jungle. Thermal scans revealed hidden chambers inside the pyramids. And portable DNA labs are rewriting what we know about ancient mummies. History is alive. And the artifacts that wait in storage rooms behind closed doors or beneath our feet, they could change everything, because the past doesn't stop. It unfolds, and you are here for its next page. So what happens when we find something that doesn't belong to its time? An ancient battery inside a clay jar? A bowl from Bolivia with Sumerian script? Next file. Unearthing the Enigmas, where we explore the artifacts history says shouldn't exist. Only they do. Some discoveries leave us with more questions than answers. Objects that don't fit where they're found, while tools built with technology that shouldn't have existed, no writing was supposed to be. They are often quietly labeled out-of-place artifacts. Some call them anomalies. Others claim they're evidence that our history isn't as complete as we think. In this chapter, we're not here to prove wild theories. We're here to show you what's actually been found, and why these items still don to sit comfortably inside our official timeline. This is the Forgotten File, and you're about to uncover the finds that historians are still arguing about. The Baghdad Battery. In the 1930s, archaeologists digging near modern-day Baghdad uncovered something strange. A small clay pot, sealed with asphalt, containing an iron rod and a copper cylinder. At first glance, it looked like a storage jar. But one researcher, Wilhelm King, had another idea. What if this wasn't a jar at all? What if it was a battery? That's exactly what it might have been. When filled with an acidic substance, like vinegar or lemon juice, the materials could theoretically produce a small electric charge, enough voltage to electroplate a bit of gold onto silver, or maybe power a simple medical device. Speculation but informed. The so-called Baghdad Battery predates modern electricity by more than 2,000 years. There's no blueprint, no user manual, no context. Just one possible clue that suggests ancient experimentation with electrochemistry long before Edison or Tesla ever lived. The Fuente Magna Bowl. Next, we travel to Bolivia near Lake Titicaca. In the 1950s, a local farmer discovered a carved ceramic bowl buried in the highland soil. It was found near Tiwanaku, an ancient site often linked to pre-Inca civilization. The outside was nothing unusual Andean-style artwork, but the inside, that's where things got strange. The bowl was covered in writing and not the kind associated with ancient Bolivia. Some researchers claim the symbols look like Sumerian cuneiform. Yes, Sumerian from Mesopotamia, thousands of miles away. Critics say it's either a coincidence, a misreading, or outright forgery. But others argue that the pattern and syntax resemble early writing from Uruk-Kira Sumer. If it's authentic, then we have two civilizations separated by an ocean writing similar symbols, centuries before Columbus ever sailed. Even if it's not proof of direct contact, it still begs a question. How much human knowledge overlaps event when cultures are supposed to be isolated? The Piri Race Map, discovered in 1929. This hand-drawn world map was created by Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis in 1513. What makes it controversial? It appears to contain coastal outlines of South America and Antarctica decades, or even centuries, before those lands were charted. The most debated portion is the southern section. Some claim it shows the coastline of Antarctica not as we see it today, but as it would have appeared ice-free. Of course, this claim remains unproven and heavily challenged. Modern cartographers argue it's likely a misinterpretation or distorted representation of South America. But that's not the only unique thing about the map. Piri Reis included notes on the side of his parchment, saying it was compiled from over 20 older source maps, some from ancient Greece, others from Syria or early Muslim explorers. It suggests there may have been older sea charts, long lost to history, that found their way into this Renaissance era version. True or not, it shows us something important. Even in the 1500s, curiosity about the world included reading from older, forgotten knowledge we still haven't fully traced. Phaistos Disc. Unearthed in Crete in 1908, The Phaistos Disc is just 15 centimeters across, but it's one of the most puzzling artifacts ever found. It's made of fired clay. Stamps were used to impress symbols into both sides, symbols that don't match any known language, ancient or modern. It's carefully arranged in a spiral, suggesting narrative or instruction. But for over a century, no one has decoded it with confidence. It could be a prayer, a poem, a calendar, a ritual guide, or even just decoration. But here's what makes it vital. It shows that not all written records survive long enough to be part of history. We don't know what we've lost, and sometimes we don't even know what we're looking at. This disc is one of those moments. Rongorongo. The writing no one can read thousands of kilometers away on Easter Island, another unsolved script remains in silence. Called Rongorongo, this elegant system of symbols was discovered in the 19th century, carved into wooden tablets, rows that are read in an alternating pattern. Some say it's a writing system, others say it's a mnemonic device, more like coded memory prompts than a direct language. No native speakers remain to interpret it. The knowledge was likely lost after European contact decreased the island's population by over 80%. And that's the tragedy. When we lose cultures, we don't only lose people, we lose languages, interpretation, meaning. How many other Rapa Nui scrolls have rotted in the jungle or been lost in fire? Now we're left with carvings and guesses. So what do these anomalies tell us? If none of these artifacts by themselves rewrite history, they're not smoking guns, they don't prove aliens, teleportation, ancient global high-tech civilizations. What they do suggest is that our map of the past may be missing islands. And maybe we've been too quick to label some questions as settled facts when they were really just unfinished sentences. In our next chapter, we dive deeper into forgotten knowledge. Beyond anomalies, what about civilizations that left behind evidence of advanced math, astronomy, and even surgery? Did our ancestors understand more than we gave them credit for? Next, lost knowledge and the civilizations that built it, only Heron, the Forgotten File. Chapter 3. Lost knowledge and the civilizations that built. What if we've underestimated our ancestors? Not just in what they built, but in what they understood. In this chapter, we shift focus from artifacts to ideas. Ideas etched into stone, calculated in stars, and built into blueprints so precise. Some modern engineers still don't fully agree on how they were done. This isn't about lost Atlantis or alien help. It's about giving credit where credit is finally due. It's because behind every monument, every ancient map, every mysterious line carved into the earth, there was a mind. Human, focused, inventive. Let's open the next file. The Nazca Lines. Messages written on a grand scale stretching across southern Peru's desert are massive geoglyphs, over 1,200 feet long. From the ground, they're nearly invisible. But viewed from above, they explode into form. Spiders, hummingbirds, monkeys, spirals, runways, geometric alignments. These are the Nazca Lines, created between 500 BCE and 500 CE, according to mainstream archaeology. They were most likely drawn by removing dark rocks to expose lighter ground underneath. But the real mystery isn't how. It's why. How could a civilization without flight design shapes only recognizable from the sky? Some lines align with star positions, most notably during the summer and winter solstices. Were these massive drawings astronomical markers? Religious offerings? Calendars encoded in earth? Whatever they were, they show knowledge of perspective, alignment, and scale that rivals any modern land surveyor. And they force us to rethink primitive devote. The Piri race map revisited. We first met the Piri race map in Chapter 2, but now, let's take a closer look at one strange detail. A section of the parchment drawn in 1513 shows a coastline that some say looks like Antarctica as we know it today, covered in ice, but as it may have looked during a warm period 6,000 years ago. Most scholars believe it's South America, drawn with distortion. Others argue that Piri race compiled the map using older charts, even he did not understand references. Reportedly from now lost ancient maps stored in Alexandria or Constantinople, this tells us something key. Even when civilizations collapse, their knowledge may survive as fragments handed off, repurposed, misunderstood, until rediscovered centuries later. The stone engineering we still debate go anywhere near ancient Egypt, Peru, or India, and you will find a familiar signature. Stonework more precise than expected. Let's take 3 examples. Egypt, the Great Pyramid. It's built more than 4,500 years ago, aligned almost perfectly, with true north just 3/60th of a degree off. Each side of its base measures about 230 meters, differing by a matter of centimeters. Measured in cubits, built with granite blocks weighing over 70 tons, somehow lifted 400 feet above the desert floor. How? We don't know for certain. There are theories. Ramps, sledges, levers. Probable, plausible, but not proven. What's more interesting is this. It was built mathematically. It encodes pi, and some believe the golden ratio. Whether by intention or coincidence, it suggests a refined understanding of geometry long before Euclid ever wrote a theorem. Peru, a fortress above the ancient Inca capital. Its walls are made of stones weighing between 90 and 120 tons fit together so precisely. Not even a blade fits between them. No mortar, no errors. And the design isn't random, it uses interlocking shapes that help the walls survive earthquakes that destroy everything else. Today, modern stonemasons still marvel at how these shapes were carved and moved. India Kailasa Temple, cut from a single block of solid rock top to bottom. Over 200,000 tons of stone removed to shape the full temple at Ellora caves. No scaffolding, no cranes. Whoever planned it did so backwards. From the roof down, method still used in some specialist engineering projects, but tracing back to 8th century craftsmen. Ancient surgery, not just superstition. It's easy to imagine ancient medicine was all herbs and chants, but evidence tells us another story. In Neolithic graves, archaeologists have found skulls with clean, round holes, signs of trepanation or cranial surgery, not just once or twice. It was done many times with signs of healing. People survived. In ancient India, the physician Sushruta described over 300 surgical procedures in texts, dating to 600 BC, including skin grafts, bone setting, and cataract removal. The Greeks improved it. The Romans documented it. Point is, they weren't ignorant. They were developing systems, measured, tested, passed down. So where did that knowledge go? That's the question scholars still debate. Because many of these advancements didn't lead into the future, they crashed, disappeared, got rewritten or forgotten. Sometimes it's natural. Empires collapse, libraries burn, droughts, wars, disease. Sometimes knowledge is actively destroyed. The burning of the Library of Alexandria is the erasure of Mesoamerican codices during Spanish conquest. The silencing of astronomers and scientists deemed heretical. Even now, academic institutions are only slowly reversing centuries of Eurocentric historical writing that ignored African, Asian, and pre-Columbian innovation. We think of history as a line. In truth, it's a field, with paths, detours, dead ends, and hidden collaborations. Change the lens. Advanced by what standard? When we say a civilization was advanced, we often mean, did it build machines? Did it go to space? But real advancement can also mean mathematics developed without writing, as done by cultures in Africa, survivable architecture in unstable climates, farming systems that never depleted their soil, calendar systems still accurate to the second today. In other words, wisdom isn't always in the technology. Sometimes it's in the ability to live on this planet wisely. And understanding what's been lost might just help us build a better present. But for every great idea passed down, hundreds were nearly lost forever. Why? Because some of history's biggest discoveries were found by accident. In caves, tombs, battlefields, junk piles. In Chapter 4, we explore the journey of discovery, how stories were found, faked or fought over, and how modern tools like LiDAR and DNA are rewriting everything again. Only here on The Forgotten File. Chapter 4, From Dirt to Debate. The journey of discovery. Some discoveries change history. Others create arguments that last longer than the empires they describe. Because unlocking the past isn't always as simple as digging something up. Every artifact comes with questions. Is it genuine? Who found it? Who deserves to keep it? And what does it really mean? History isn't just stored in dust, it's shaped by the hands that uncover it. This is the Forgotten File, and in this chapter, we follow the long, often messy, sometimes controversial journey of discovery, from dirt all the way to debate. The accidental discoveries that turned history upside down. Not every major artifact is found inside a museum or labeled by experts. Some are found by farmers, by children, by explorers in the wrong place at the right time. Let's look at just a few examples. The Dead Sea Scrolls. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd boy near Qumran, in the West Bank, threw a rock into a cave and heard it hit pottery. Inside, hundreds of ancient scrolls, biblical texts, sectarian writings, lost pieces of the Hebrew Bible older than anything the modern world had. It wasn't discovered by archaeologists. It started with a child in a throw. Eventually, the scrolls were dated to as early as the 3rd century BCE, offering insight into Second Temple Judaism. The roots of Christianity and the complex religious world of ancient Israel, they were almost lost, buried for 2,000 years, and then randomness brought them back. The Rosetta Stone. In 1799, during Napoleon's campaign in Egypt, French soldiers unearthed a black slab near the town of Rosetta, now Rashid. The stone was engraved with 3 scripts: Greek, Demotic, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. Why was this important? Because the Rosetta Stone was the Kitha, cipher that finally unlocked the ancient Egyptian language. Deciphered by Jean-François Champollion in 1822, it gave scholars access to 4,000 years of Egyptian texts, tombs, and teachings. Before that, find hieroglyphs were just symbols. Afterward, they were a language. Sometimes you need luck and war to push open a door. But sometimes we're fooled. For every incredible real artifact, history has dozens of fakes. And some are so convincing they fooled even the experts. Let's explore a few legendary hoaxes. The Piltdown Man in 1912. Archaeologists in England announced the discovery of a human skull with both a plaque and modern features. It was hailed as the missing link in evolution. But 40 years later, it was revealed to be a deliberate forgery, a human skull combined with an orangutan jawbone. 8. Artificially aged and filed down to fit together. It wasn't an innocent mistake. People wanted so much for it to be real, they stopped asking the right questions. The Gospel of Jesus' Wife in 2012. Harvard historian Karen King unveiled a papyrus fragment with the phrase, "Jesus said to them, my wife." For 2 years, it ignited global headlines. Was this a suppressed part of Christian history? Later, scholars discovered it was almost certainly a 21st century forgery, copied from a modern book on the Gospel of Thomas, likely aged using ancient scrap papyrus and modern ink. Even respected academics can be deceived, especially when the discovery threatens to rewrite everything. Who gets to own the past? One of the fiercest debates in archaeology today isn't about what artifacts say, but where they belong. Museums in Europe and North America are filled with objects dug from colonial era. Expeditions, Benin bronzes, Nigeria, Elgin marbles, Greece, mummies, skulls, and gold from across Africa, Asia, and the Americas, were these artifacts legally excavated. Do they belong to the scientific world or to the modern nations where they were made? Some were stolen, clearly. Others were taken under shady agreements when world powers were expanding empires. Today, repatriation, the return of cultural objects, is gaining momentum. But institutions often resist, pointing to legal ownership, preservation efforts, or the value of shared history. It's a debate with no easy answer. But one thing is certain: artifacts aren't just items from the past. They are part of someone's story, sometimes violently interrupted. How modern technology changes everything? Fortunately, we're not stuck with 20th century tools anymore. Innovations in archaeology are transforming how we study history sometimes, without even needing to touch what's buried. LiDAR. Using airborne lasers, LiDAR can see through trees and foliage, exposing architectural patterns otherwise hidden to the human eye. In the last decade, LiDAR scans across Central America uncovered massive Mayan cities beneath jungle canopy, revealing roads, reservoirs, and structures no one knew existed. DNA analysis, forensic techniques now let scientists analyze mummies, buried remains, and even ancient disease strains, pulling new data out of old bones. One recent example. Genetic analysis showed that Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun likely suffered from several genetic illnesses, including bone disorders and malaria. The glamorous image of the boy king. It's more complicated than ever. DNA has also rewritten migration patterns showing unexpected connections between ancient Europe and Asia, and between native North American and Siberian populations. 3D imaging and digital reconstruction. Damaged sculptures and sealed scrolls can now be viewed layer by layer without unrolling or touching fragile surfaces. One exciting project used particle accelerators to read a papyrus scroll from Herculaneum still. Charred from the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE, the text is sealed inside, but the data may soon be readable. We're no longer just digging by hand. We're scanning, reconstructing, synthesizing, and reinterpreting. What does this mean for the truth? All of this, the accidents, fakes, tools, and ethics, brings us to a strange truth. The past isn't sitting quietly. It's waiting. To every generation, the tools get sharper, the biases shift, and the stories evolve. That's not a threat to history. It's proof that history is alive. We don't just discover a thing, explain it, and move on. We revisit it, re-question it, sometimes realize we still don't know what we thought we knew. In this final chapter, we leave the tools and the labels behind and focus on what matters most: the people. What did these artifacts mean to those who made them? How are they understood, treasured, passed down, or buried forever? Next, echoes of humanity. The impact and legacy, only here on The Forgotten File. Chapter 5. Echoes of humanity. The impact and legacy artifacts aren't just made of stone, clay, or metal. They're built from something more lasting. Intention, belief, memory, hope, and when we look at them as more than just things, we start to see what they've carried across time. In this final chapter of Asterisk, Whispers from the Relic, we set down the tools, we stop scanning and decoding, and we focus on the people, the forgotten hands that made these objects, and the living impact they still have today. This is The Forgotten File. The Relic, a story, a famous battle, a lost civilization, a mysterious origin, but some carry something quieter and more personal. Inside the ruins of Pompeii, frozen in ash, archaeologists found a small bronze pendant, still clutched in the hand of a child. Elsewhere, in the sands of ancient Mesopotamia, near modern Iraq, researchers uncovered a simple clay tablet. It wasn't a royal decree or cosmic calendar. It was a receipt for the purchase of beer. Basic things. Personal objects. Documents of life as it was lived. Proof that no matter how far back we go, people were people. They drank, they played, they worshipped, they raised children. They feared loss. And in that way, the past isn't distant. It's familiar. It's objects that traveled without passports. Sometimes the object tells a story not just about its owner, but the entire world they lived in. Take, for example, a Roman coin found in India. Silk dyed with insect-based pigments exported from Italy, discovered in China. A Viking burial helmet adorned with beads likely traded across Africa, all from ages before modern globalization. They show us that ancient civilizations were not isolated islands. They were nodes in a massive, evolving human network. Ideas moved, art moved, plants, languages, diseases, and yes, people moved more than we once believed. These artifacts don't just reveal what a culture looked like, they reveal connections between people who never met, but somehow still shared part of a story. Even today, we're piecing together these links. Decoding how a carved image in Baghdad matches religious figures in Bolivia, or how writing styles cross oceans. The past is both unique and shared, just like us. Personal but universal, let's go back to something simple. Comb, carved from bone in ancient Scandinavia, dated to around 800 CEE. Scratchy Viking runes on the side say one thing: Thor owns this. Not a poem, not a prophecy, just a name and pride in it. It reminds us. Self-expression wasn't born on Instagram. Or take a children's toy found in the ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro, over 4,000 years old. A clay animal with wheels, a pole toy so simple, a child today would know what to do with it. This is the echo. Not just how advanced were they, but how like us were they. Their daily problems were different. But joy, grief, laughter, legacy, those haven't changed. More than just display pieces. So when we wrap these artifacts in velvet, prop them behind glass, and label them with safe explanations, we sometimes sterilize their power, because many weren't made to be studied. They were offered, warned, shared, hidden, buried. Some were made for gods. Others were meant for funerals. Some were tools, others were weapons. Some told stories. Others carried stories in silence, waiting to be read again. And when we do read, carefully, honestly, with curiosity, we don't just see them, we hear them, not in voice but in meaning. How understanding the past shapes today? Artifacts help build identity. They provide nations, cities, and even families with a sense of narrative. But they also invite us to review what we think we know. Maybe a civilization once written off as primitive was really just different, and brilliant in a way we didn't expect. Maybe the systems we admire today had precursors long before modern time began counting. Maybe the past doesn't only teach us where we came from. It reminds us who we've always been and who we're still becoming. Because innovation isn't linear. Languages die, wisdom gets forgotten. But when rediscovered, they change our direction. Modern medicine is borrowed from ancient Egypt, architecture from the Romans, governance systems pull from Greece, Mesopotamia, and Asia. Even algorithms used in AI today have parallels in Islamic Golden Age notebooks. The ancient world is not gone. Parts of it are still working inside us. We've reached the end, but not the end of the story. Thousands of artifacts lie undiscovered in tombs. Temples, caves, jungles, deserts, and sunken ships right now. Even more sit in museum storage and tagged, unread, uncatalogued. Tools exist now that can read a scroll without unrolling it. Find a city without digging a single shovel, see invisible etchings. Traces of touch, layers of paint, even reconstruct lost languages with probability models. We're on the edge of the next wave of archaeological understanding. We need curious minds to lead it, not just scientists, but viewers like you. So what do these whispers from the relic truly tell us? Not that we should worship the past, not that we should rewrite everything overnight, but that we should stay curious. Ask questions. Challenge simplicity. And remember that everything we are today, we owe to someone, somewhere, who left something behind. You've just explored 5 chapters of objects that defy silence, tools and treasures that speak louder through the ages. If this inspired you, there's more waiting to be uncovered. Subscribe to The Forgotten File, hit the bell so you don't miss our next mystery. Tell us in the comments, which artifact or ancient culture should we explore next? This isn't the end. It never is. The past is unfolding, and we'll be there to witness it one file at a time.